IO team. How are you doing today, gentlemen?
Doing great. How are you?
All good, sir. All good. God's been great. All good.
Great. Well, I know why you're both great, and it's because we've launched IO Intelligence today, which we'll be talking about in detail. But first, we're going to answer some questions from the community. So let's get into it. First, there are some questions around co-staking and staking in general. The first one is, what's happening with the staking pool? What new addresses will be staked tokens? So what's happening with the staking pool?
So actually, co-staking was supposed to go live last Friday. We actually had a launch ready and we were trying to launch it, but we found a last minute bug on Friday that it was a small bug. So we basically fixed it over the weekend, and then either we could have launched it like literally on Tuesday today, or we thought we'll launch and focus more on the IO intelligence, and then once IO intelligence is ready, push to production, and then we will launch staking. So we thought of later that there are a lot of moving pieces in IO intelligence. We will launch that first, which we did today, and now I think any day, either Friday or over the weekend, we will launch the staking. I think between Friday and Monday, you will see staking going live. From our side, everything is done. Uh, I think we already got some asks from few suppliers for co-staking as well. So you'll see some offers also coming out.
And then speaking on the subject of staking, is there any limit to those who can stake in phase two?
So there are two phases which are this project is phased in, right? One is the marketplace model, where let's say if I'm a supplier and I need help, I basically create my own bid that let's say I'm supposed to stake 100 coins for X model to start an eligibility of block rewards. I can say I don't have all 100 tokens for this GPU. I only have 60. I need 40, but those 40 tokens for someone else to give me as a help, I'm ready to give 20% of my rewards to that particular person, right? So I'll create a bid, push it to the platform, and somebody can see my statistics of the model, and then they can actually give me those 40 coins, right? That is phase one. That will be the one which will be launching between this Friday to next Monday. There's no limit to what would be asked. Meaning, if I have 1,000 devices, I can actually ask for all 1,000 to get help. It's very supplier driven. That's a phase one, and then phase two, which will be foreseeable, I think, in a month from now, which we call as a pooling system where like a percentage of rewards of the whole monthly pool will be taken out, and there people can stake their coins and they get the rewards back. But that's phase two. Right now, it will be marketplace model which will be going live. So when phase two comes, we'll share more details. Right now, in next few days, it will be marketplace which will go live.
Okay, and then
Is it clear?
Oh, go ahead.
Happy to answer questions if it's not clear.
And then let me ask about the M4. This is a popular subject with the community. One of the questions is, will M4 based models be supported?
Yes. So I think in a week and a half from now, you will basically get an official announcement where M2 will be moving out and M4 will be joining in 1.5 week. So we will release block rewards again in next 3 to 4 days. Once those are basically have gone out, then very fast follow up, because the same team manages the supply and the like all sanity around supply and the block rewards the team manages. They're right now busy in block reward release of last month. Once they complete this release, I think within a week from that time, you can expect an announcement coming in of M2 being moving out and M4 coming in, and the respective multiplying factor for that also.
Great. Let's move on to a couple of other subjects the community has been asking about. First one is, do we have a definitive date for TNE on chain?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
I think TNE on chain will be live in next 2 weeks. So you will see three things going live in next 2 weeks. Uh, I think one would be the staking. The other would be TNE, and then one more would be your M4 announcements. IO Intelligence is already out; it's already live. So these are 4 products we were launching to launch in the month of Feb. So I think all of these you'll see in next 2 weeks going out.
Okay.
All these products.
And then, Tassif, I have one for you. Are there any studies on using computing power in areas other than artificial intelligence?
Sure. I think this is actually sort of how I originally, got attracted to AI and GPUs in general. So to answer your question, yes, there are a ton of use cases for compute outside of AI. And I think if you kind of realistically look at what GPUs have been used for several years, AI has been around for a while, but it really kind of captured everyone's imagination, sort of more so in the last few years. But prior to that, sort of when NVIDIA was kind of coming more onto the scene and sort of becoming more popular, you kind of have to really ask yourself, like, what does the word GPU even stand for? And it stands for graphical processing unit, right? So for that specifically, from like the graphical piece, like a lot of the compute power typically, and why NVIDIA had a lot of success in the early days, even pre-AI, was specifically for a lot of gaming use cases, right? So as sort of games became more and more sophisticated, you needed more powerful GPUs, or just in general, like processors. CPUs couldn't get the job done, so we needed specialized hardware like GPUs to be able to actually drive that. And kind of with that sort of progress of GPUs and gaming to like the next level, I think sort of other areas, sort of like the next iteration of it really is going to be in sort of VR and AR, right? So I think VR, the focus was sort of as like the next stage of gaming, but with sort of technologies like augmented reality and mixed reality, which could be sort of like the next phase of evolution of things like the smartphone and the laptop. A lot of those are extremely compute intensive, considering how much data in the real world has to be processed. So a lot of those will drive need for compute power even outside of any artificial intelligence use cases, right? And I think very similarly, we saw sort of like the value of like GPUs and sort of like hash miners and sort of like really compute intensive products being used in the crypto industry for like proof of work blockchains and mining and validation and things like that, which will of course continue to be another sort of area where a lot of compute power is needed. And I think lastly, one of the ones that I think we're starting to see, which we've talked about for a long time, but I think now everyone is starting to see it more so in the real world, is just the self-driving and autonomous cars, right? So me living out here in California, I see the Waymos out here every day, just driving by themselves, and any sort of like self-driving or autonomous car technology is extremely compute intensive with the amount of sort of like vision and cameras and processing that it needs to do in real time to be actually able to sort of manage all the information coming in while driving. So those are some of the sort of very compute intensive use cases that I can think of off the top of my mind that aren't necessarily directly related to AI, but will continue to be major parts of the future we live in.
And Gaurav, any particular studies that you've seen recently, or think are good resources for the community to look at?
For what? For the AI
Yeah,
agents?
for using computing power in areas other than artificial intelligence.
I think like predominantly, honestly, like whatever I'm reading right now, it's mostly around not even AI agents. Like people have gone a step further. They're actually now going towards the agentic framework side, where rather than just not focusing on the one vertical model and the AI model, they're basically now working towards making multiple AI agents to work together for a specific defined goal, and the whole process around it, which they call as agentic framework. There's more research going there. Other than like this, I think it's gaming is the most popular one, which is there on the play. But I think the majorly the bigger and the stronger hardware will be for AI agents, models, and agentic frameworks. In gaming, as per my understanding, I think the old models of 4090s and others are good enough. Otherwise, all the new and upcoming models, which are much more stronger, they'll be predominantly for these frameworks, and that's what predominant demand is. And honestly, I'm biased toward this also because most of my business use cases are enterprise, and enterprise have predominantly been asking me things around this. So my study and the papers which I read recently is on the agents, agentic frameworks on this side predominantly. So mine probably biased.
Well, got it.
But
We've got a question that came. Oh, go ahead.
I'm thinking like practically speaking, what you'll see is the AI will be like infiltrating and percolating down to each and every aspect of the like overall life of people. Like a lot of the phones are already going towards heavily towards AI. Like for instance, you would see the latest Samsung S25 model also. You'll see that they have not launched any new hardware upgrades in the latest model. The main selling point for that hardware predominantly, or the model predominantly, has been the AI features they're giving. Like same is the case with a lot of the smart watches you're seeing. Similarly, I'm seeing a lot of the house equipment where I recently went along with a family to some shops. They're all AI, AI, AI. So I think the percolation and the usage of GPUs would uh, would be used in each and every aspect of life, whether it will be home appliances, watches, mobiles, and everything. You'll slowly and steadily see the that in past 4 to 5 years, the selling point always have been more powerful chips, more powerful processors, and the hardware. But going forward, it will be mostly on the software side and mostly towards the intelligence and the AI side. Hence, the demand of GPUs. And because it will touch every aspect of life, I foresee that the type of GPUs which will be getting launched will be more creative going forward. For example, you have seen Nvidia's Blackwell getting launched recently, which is a very small GPU but very powerful. And what I foresee is that how you had it in mobile phones, things which happened in past where there was a big box, a big CPU, then slowly and steadily it kept shrinking, 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 and now like the I think the CPU which I used to use in my college, my mobile phone is much more stronger. And I foresee the same thing happening with these GPUs also in the coming 2 years. That these big racks which we have, a good percentage of the power of that rack would now be in like small watches and phones going forward. People can't relate it right now. Like same way people couldn't relate it like 15, 20 years back, that the big CPU could like literally have the same power in a small phone in hand. But and that is for I what I foresee going forward, and I think that's where the usage will be. Like all the models and everything, and the AI running on your local devices rather than a remote device or data center somewhere.
Great. And then there's a question in the comments about January block rewards and distribution.
Yes. Uh, I think it will happen before next Tuesday.
Okay. Now, switching gears to talk about IO Intelligence, who's just publicized today that IO Intelligence has launched. Why is IO Intelligence an important milestone for IONet?
It's because that we keep executing on our fundamental value as a company, right? Our fundamental value as a company was to provide compute and to provide access of resources to the builders, right? And IO Intelligence is a fundamental product in that vision. Like today, what we saw when we actually opened this company was that there are a huge number of open source models there in the industry, but everybody who's running after the money has no incentive to deploy these models for and giving the access to these models to these builders where they can work on these models, learn from these models, and build something more creative. Nobody was doing it, and our vision always was that once we have a good stable business model and a good inventory, a part of our inventory, we'll use it to empower these builders so they can actually build next gen AIs and the products around it, right? That's what the vision always was. And this is the fundamental product uh, over there. A lot of the AI companies, they have smart data scientists, but they don't have enough funding to hire these costly GPUs. They don't have uh, these like money to hire a huge team or DevOps engineers. We always knew that, and like anytime they see a model which is getting popular in the outside world, and they start to work on that, meaning test that model, deploy that model on the hardware, and create an infrastructure around it, they basically lose a good percentage of bandwidth of the engineering side. And if it's just a hype, they lose a lot of time, which is not like which is like extremely killer to these startups. And even if it is successful, they don't have enough money to use these models at scale. So this is this whole ecosystem being aiming for that. If you hear some model which is getting hyped, more often than not, if it's a good model, you will find it on the AI platform for free. You can use the API version, you can use the chat version, play with it, explore. And if it is good, which obviously we would have done the homework on our side, and that's why we would have deployed it. And we'll do that first screening for you, for the builders. Then you will have the access to those models through our APIs. And if it is of any business value to you, at that time we can go into the business side of things, like you have certain number of tokens for free, and beyond that you will pay. We'll have a dedicated version and deployment for you so that you can scale along with the usage. So I think it's a fundamental product, and the proof of the pudding is that the moment we were creating these models and we had the first version of the model or this whole product built in the month of December, I think we already had 2 3 people, enterprise people, big companies, already asking for this product. And this product is already in use in the background for a month or so. So I think this is one of the most important products we have launched in the last 6 months, and like I foresee a lot of good things around it. And this is just the phase one, guys. We have another 2 versions coming in for this product in the next 2 months, which are like far more cooler, far more better for the builders going forward. A lot of good news you'll see in the coming time around this whole infrastructure.
Yeah, I think just to add a few things there too, I think Gaurav kind of really hit the nail on the head there. But I really can't understate sort of like how important of a milestone this really is for IONET and, kind of like the next phase of what we're trying to build, and sort of how we're trying to get to our overall mission of democratizing AI, right? So I think the way I would really think about this with our IO cloud product and our focus on GPUs, we really built a product with our GPU cloud that enables the most sort of like sophisticated developers in AI ML, sort of like data scientists and folks like that to be able to build because at the end of the day, managing, deploying GPUs, understanding your compute needs, like, managing driver versions, like all of these different things that an infrastructure engineer needs to really think about when training an AI model or running inference on your own sort of compute. It can get really complex pretty quickly, and you need sort of like a very sophisticated set of skills and specific developers who can manage that sort of compute estate to be able to build AI in that way. But realistically, with in reality, there are sort of like 100 to 1,000x more developers out there who just have a really great idea for building a consumer app or that involves AI, but they really don't want to, deal with all of the headaches that come with managing, the GPU infrastructure. So with IO Intelligence, we're really sort of opening up our addressable market to all of those developers out there who just want to build really cool AI apps, but just want to tap into an API, be able to leverage some of the leading open source AI models without having to deal with, specifics around like training or fine tuning or hosting them on their own hardware. By just being able to tap into this API, plugging it directly into their app and paying on a per token basis, it really kind of abstracts away a lot of that complexity that comes with having to rent and manage GPUs, where we kind of take that headache away from you and you're really able to kind of just focus on what you do best, right, is kind of really focus on essentially building really great apps, focus on go-to-market, focus on your customers, and leave sort of all of the AI infrastructure management to us.
Speaking of that, this is a general understanding of where it could be used. Are there specific use cases or projects that you think this is an a priori tool set for them?
Almost for all kind of companies. For instance, like we already have some users who are building LLM models of their own, and over there they want their LLMs to be learning over a lot of the other fundamental LLMs, so that they can actually double check and cross check their outputs. Uh, so I think like the more LLMs they check it their output again, the better it is for them. So we have those kind of users. Second is there are users who are just training their AI models and they feel that their use case is much more suited, or they imagine it's much more suited from, let's say, a DeepSeek. Sometimes somebody says it's no, it's not DeepSeek, it's the Llama model, and somebody else tells them something else, right? Now, for them to first of all explore which is the latest Llama version, right? What's the stable version, right? How many parameter version I should deploy it on, right? What power of like machine I should deploy it on. Then like these variables start to explode. Like just for DeepSeek, you have like this n number of versions, right? Now, if you can you can deploy it in H200, you can deploy it in H100, you can deploy it in 4090. The performance will be different. Why? Because each model you can actually parameterize and use it the different configuration, right? Which results in the thinking capacity of the model directly, right? Now, which version of the model is good for that company, they don't know. And now, if they start to create their own infra around all these things, it adds up for them. It takes a lot of toll. And just for deploying and using this infra, they're doing something which is not core to their business. In many of the companies, they don't even have this specific skill set. And just to explore this skill set, they'll take months, which basically delays their plan. There's so many things which goes around. So I think we have seen almost all kind of companies coming to us and asking for this product. Like honestly, I'm not genuinely overselling. Like I have spoken to 6 companies till now. On all 6 agreed, 3 have already started using this product. Like that is a kind of, and I have only spoken to 6. Like the other team members have spoken to even more. That gives you like just data point that it's not a specific kind of company which needs it. Almost all companies need it, right? And especially when you attach it with the case that the company like IO who's giving this product, they provide the GPU also at a very cheap cost, meaning this product for them would be extremely cheap as well. That's just a no-brainer. Why would somebody spend, first of all, hiring inventory of somebody else, which is costly? Second, they basically take their core people in the company who are having a high ROI to do something which is not associated with their business for the setup. uh, like if some other company give it is it like 70-80% cheaper, it's for them it's a no-brainer to give this whole thing and start using the other platform which is doing it out of the box. So yeah, for us, like all companies which we speak and few of our existing customers which we spoke to, all of them are on board already.
Yeah, and I think just to kind of add from, sort of like the different areas that we're seeing too, it's because you mentioned sort of Web3 and Web2. I think what's really great about this product is that it actually applies across sort of like all type of developers, irrespective of whether they come from Web3 or Web2, right? Like speaking from the BD side a little bit, we've seen a ton of interest from a lot of sort of like the major projects in the AI agent space out there today in the IO intelligence launch. We actually had several projects who were um, looking for early access and getting access to the APIs like well before our launch today, and we kind of had to manage that. And now we're kind of reaching out and helping them plug into our product now, which has been really great to see. But a number of sort of like the actual AI agents that are running on sort of like OpenAI or Anthropic or sort of other open source models, with our price advantage of how we structured IO intelligence, I think we'll see a lot of those agents start to switch over and explore integrating IO intelligence as well, along with a lot of the other, almost AI agent frameworks, right? Like that make it easier for other developers to build agents on top. I think this will be IO intelligence will be kind of another tool in that toolkit that'll make it even easier for those folks using those frameworks to be able to deploy those agents. And I think lastly, yeah, kind of as Gaurav mentioned, the use cases on the Web2 side are really limitless, right? Like I think it kind of really bridges that gap between like being able to help out a lot of those companies and enterprises who might not have that sophisticated employee base, to actually fully deep dive into training and fine tuning models and optimizing inference and latency and things like that, which kind of require massive investments and hiring a lot of people with skill sets who you might not have internally at the company now. I think with access to a product like IO Intelligence, it really speeds up that cycle of experimentation and iteration, kind of as Gaurav mentioned, where you can quickly kind of try out a lot of different open source models, see what really fits best for your use case, kind of get a better understanding of, hey, should I invest in, like RAG or context window optimization or fine tuning and things like that to really sort of make a particular model work even better for whatever vertical use case you have as a company and what your customers are really asking for. So I think it kind of really helps companies shift focus and attention more towards what their customers actually want and how to actually delight their customers and make customer and user behavior more sticky, rather than kind of spinning cycles on optimizing AI infrastructure internally.
And Tassif, you mentioned price and ability for experimentation. Is there anything else that differentiates IO intelligence from other AI infrastructure solutions?
So I think pricing is definitely one of the big ones, right? Like in terms of sort of how we've actually structured it on our end too. One of the benefits that we have in terms of us starting off as like the largest like decentralized GPU cloud, and then moving into sort of AI tools and products such as IO Intelligence, is that we have access to a significant amount of like compute that acts as the foundation of all this, right? On top of which we can build and make available a variety of other products that take advantage of that underlying compute that we have available. So I think in that way, pricing becomes a significant lever for us in our go-to-market here, very similar to sort of like how we were able to do a lot of structural arbitrage in the way we built our GPU cloud as well. I think we bought that same ethos in terms of how we're pricing and rolling out IO Intelligence as well. I think a lot of customers will see that benefit, especially compared to, we talk a lot on the BD and sales side about our GPU offering being, 70 to 90% cheaper than AWS and Google Cloud. I think we probably bring a very similar sort of value proposition to the IO Intelligence side, but instead of comparing versus AWS or Google Cloud, we're comparing towards OpenAI or Anthropic's API, right? Like inference API as a service that they go to market with. So I think we'll see a lot of benefit there. And I think the other angle that that really plays in our favor is sort of our product being focusing on open source models, right? Like as we've kind of seen this debate historically for the past couple of years of which angle is better for building foundational models has shifted from this idea of like, oh, you have to do closed source models to kind of have a moat around your product. It's really shifted to people understanding that, hey, actually open source models from like Llama 3.3 from Meta or DeepSeek R1 are just as good, if not better, as some of the closed source models out there. So I think our ability to serve a lot of those open source models and kind of continuously update them as we've kind of seen, this space moves pretty quickly. So DeepSeek R1 was all the rage in the past couple of weeks, but I'm sure by next month there'll be an even hotter new AI model on the block that everyone will be talking about. But with our agility and nimbleness, we'll be able to adapt IO Intelligence to be able to support the latest open source models and make that available to people pretty much on day one, right? Like based on sort of what our cycle would be. So I think with that too, just giving access to people with the latest open source models will drive a lot of people to pay attention.
And Gaurav, same question to you.
I think that there are few variables which makes us distinct compared to others. Pricing is obviously one, right? Which is not a small variable. It's one of the like biggest variables there, right? Second is the variety in inventory, and I think a knowledge base also working with these models that also plays a huge role because I think I was doing a research recently. At least I didn't see from my read that somebody is giving the models on these kind of variations which we are giving. For example, like let's take a DeepSeek itself, right? We have given a DeepSeek model deployed on H200. We have given it on H100. We have given it 4090 community hardware, and we have given it all the parameter variations also, right? Like some of the people did it, but they just did like on maybe on like a 4090 or H100 maybe individually, but not at scale which we did, and with the kind of stability we have done. That's one, right? Other than this whole system which we built it in a way that there are there are some parts of the world currently where or some businesses which need privacy. For instance, they are not comfortable with sharing their data with somebody else. For instance, one of the customers who were using our model, they basically didn't wanted to share the data which they're training their LLM on with any other player, especially a centralized player. Even like to an external company which they're working with, right? They wanted a separate, secured setup where their data is only visible to them and their LLM can train on that, right? So this whole infra is built in a way where in the background, obviously, it's a managed product. We charge a bit more for that, but we have that setup also. That if there's a banking firm or there is a particular company which is creating their own LLM and they're basically having a security requirement where they don't want to share the data with somebody outside, they can have that also. Which again, I don't see a player doing it right now, at least in Web3 space, which we did. Uh, then obviously decentralizations and all these things are already in place. So if you just add small of these factors, they add up and become a very good reason for people to come to us. So first of all, it's decentralized. Second, the price is extremely cheap. Third, if you want security and privacy, you have that, right? If you basically need the same model to be tested and be used on a variety of model types and parameters, you have that. So all these small value set in totality makes us a very unique choice as a vendor to be used.
You both touched upon the issue of privacy. I'm curious, how does IO Intelligence handle sensitive computations while maintaining high performance?
So I think there are a few details which I don't want to share here, technically, to be honest. But we have built our infra in a way that when we do these kind of setups, the access to that particular machine and the respective Dockers is only with the owner who's basically like asking for the infra. And it becomes kind of a glass break policy kind of thing that if ever they face an issue, they basically ask us, and we basically at that particular point in time ask for access to those machines for the specific tenure of time, and then we only access that time. During that window, once we do the setup for them, the access to the machine, the setup is only with them, not with us. We just remotely get pushed certain metrics here and there for the machines, which we keep an eye on. But the internal details of the model on the data which they're running on and so on and so forth, we don't have an access to that. There are a few details which are kind of proprietary. I don't want to give right now, but in a nutshell, at a high level, that's how we do it.
And then to you, Tassif, you've talked in the past about the dangers of hallucination in DeFi, AFI, and just in DeFi in general. How does IO Intelligence enable more DeFi or AI?
Yeah, absolutely, sure thing. So I think with IO Intelligence, the way we've really launched the product and how we're making it available to developers We try not to get too specific on like exact use cases that people can use them for, right? And this is actually one of the things I kind of learned from my time at AWS and sort of like how they approach like product development as well, where it kind of really comes down to they make available tools for builders and then just let builders build what they want, right? Because you really, and in a very similar way, we're just making tools available for our community of users and customers. And I think it really comes down to like the imagination of our community in terms of what they're able to build with it. Because, there's ideas of what we think will work. And, that's sort of rooted in sort of what we see out there today already in the industry and where we think the industry is going. But when we open it up to the community, it really sort of opens up that design space of all the different ways IO intelligence can really be used. So I think with some of the models that we have available on launch today, they're extremely multimodal, right? Like to ensure that people have a variety of different type of tools that they can use, whether it's like text to text or text to image or text to audio or video. There's a variety of ways those models can really be used. And I think so very similarly, sort of in a DeFi context, or a DF AI context, I think we'll see a lot of these community builders and users really start to experiment with different models and try to understand which ones have an edge over others, right? Like, maybe some of the more sort of popular agents or DeFi models out there, maybe a variety of them are like built on Llama, but enough experimentation hasn't been done with DeepSeek or maybe some other ones, right? Like maybe there's sort of um, like a image or chart analysis model that ends up finding like really great insights based on sort of its ability to sort of analyze images and charts and things like that. That maybe a model that only looks at numbers or tables is not able to sort of discern. So I think we'll see a lot of experimentation come out just by making a variety of these open source models available to our users. And I think it'll be up to our users to figure out how the different permutations and combinations can really help them build out like an even more cutting edge DeFi product using IO intelligence.
And so before we talk about the future of IO intelligence, I just wanted to ask both of you, is there anything else about IO intelligence that we haven't covered that you'd like to share with the community?
Yeah, just that it's just a phase one, and we have 3 more phases to go. This is just a teaser for the builders. Like going forward, they are like I think if you do the fundamentals well, building on top of it become much more easier. But this is just the phase one right now. In next 2.5 months, you will see another couple of variations of this or enhancement of this infra coming in, which will be far more helpful to the builders compared to what we're given just now. And people are excited about this itself. So super excited, honestly, as a team, to see how we can help going forward once those versions are launched.
Tassif, to you, same question?
Yeah, I think Gaurav pretty much covered it, right? I think there's a ton of really great stuff about the launch today and things for the community and us to be really excited about. And I think it unlocks a lot of things that we already discussed on this space today. But in the interest of kind of leaving surprises to surprises, I think the next couple of phases of IO intelligence will sort of really show the depth of our vision and what the product team and the tech team are really kind of building behind the scenes here.
Great. Well, thanks to both of you for coming on and talking about community questions and also IO intelligence. It's a very exciting time for IONet. As always, for everyone, if you have any questions, join the Discord, add them in, and then we will have them for next week. Thanks to our guests, thanks to our listeners, and we'll see you next time on next Wednesday. Thanks all.